Gary West became local government minister in the recent shake-up of the Fahey cabinet, replacing Jerry Peacock. This week he's touring the state, meeting some of the councillors, aldermen and officials he'll be dealing with during his term. This morning he was in Newcastle, this afternoon Port Stephens and Great Lakes Shire. Also on his list of areas to be visited, Cessnock, Singleton and then to the Central West councils of Mudgee, Wellington and Orange. The new Local Government Act comes into force on the 1st of July. It'll mean dramatic changes to the way local councils operate. The Minister is using this opportunity to answer some of the queries which have arisen.
Clearly, because of the number of amendments that went through in the final stages, some councils and many councils in fact have still got to catch up on the extent of that. But I've indicated as part of my involvement, I expect the implementation phase to not be an immediate one. It's going to take 2 or 3 years.
The last thing on John Schuster's mind today was his fractured wrist. For the past few days, rumours have been rife that he was unhappy playing reserve grade for the Knights, wanted out and was talking to eastern suburbs.
I've said before it's only speculation at at this stage, which has been blown on out of proportions by the newspapers and that. I haven't made any decisions yet, and so far as I'm concerned, I'm contracted to the Knights.
Knights chairman Mike Hill confirmed Schuster was talking with East, and at this stage Newcastle haven't even considered renewing his contract.
We're not negotiating at this stage with any of our more senior players. Our policy has been to sign up the younger players at this stage.
East have actively been seeking a goal kicker and could have signed Schuster on time to finish the season with them. However, late this afternoon, East coach Mark Murray said John is a player of great talent and goal-kicking ability, but we've spoken with Newcastle and to John, and we've decided to leave it as it is. John will stay with the Knights. That leaves John Schuster in an awful predicament. The secret's out that he's not happy in Newcastle, but the team vying for his attention has withdrawn its offer. It's reasonable to assume that his reception at the Knights now will be pretty cold. Another Knight with a cold shoulder problem is Mark Glanville. He injured his shoulder scoring his first try for the season last week. X-rays determine he strained some ligaments, but should be right for this weekend against Balmain. Darren Curtis, NBN News.
So how much do uni graduates earn when they start their first full-time job? The answer is an average of $25,700. But compared with the average wage, graduate starting salaries are falling.
I think that the effect has been a combination of a very strong growth in the number of people going through university and therefore the number of graduates combined with the recession. So I think that the two things together have meant that the starting salaries have dropped.
About 72,000 graduates were interviewed from universities across the country. The report revealed large differences between some states, with graduates in New South Wales and Western Australia the highest paid and those in Queensland the lowest. The top starting salaries were paid first to dentists who earned $40,000, then to doctors on $36,000 per annum, followed by optometrists, engineers and computer science graduates. Women were the losers, their starting salaries about $2,000 less than men.
But one of the main reasons, I think, is the disciplines that both choose to go into. Males tend to, there are probably more males in areas like dentistry and medicine, computer science, mathematics, those areas that are often the highest earning areas.
Even though starting salaries for graduates are falling, it still pays to have a uni degree. In the long term, graduates have few employment difficulties and strong salary growth. The salary for graduates who had been working for 5 years had increased twice as much as the average worker. Jane Anderson, NBN News. Although one of the wards is already in use, the area was officially opened today and blessed by Father Tom Brennan. The 40 beds will be used for general medical patients. A number of the beds were taken from Block 3. Much of this part of the hospital has stood idle since the obstetrics and paediatrics units were transferred to the John Hunter when it opened. After a long wait, the Health Minister approved a $3 million grant to renovate the building. Work will begin next week.
That will then provide us with a state-of-the-art haematology unit.
The project is expected to be finished within about 14 months. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Time moved a little slower when the foundation stone of St Albans was laid and the towering church has withstood the test of a century and a half. Still, parishioners wanted something more to be remembered by and have made their mark on the busy southern approach of the New England Highway. Flanked by traffic and progress, church and shire council heads attended the blessing ceremony of a median strip memorial, 150 trees representing the parish's involvement and close ties with the community. The new Anglican Bishop of Newcastle, Roger Hurft, performed the ceremony. The trees donated by citizens were planted by inmates at the St Heliers Detention Centre.
Although he's out for 2 weeks, Simon O'Donnell can't keep away from the game. Today he and Terry Dozier started the first Kellogg's basketball clinic at the Junction Primary School. O'Donnell fractured a bone connected to his thumb and it hasn't healed since he injured it 2 weeks ago.
I can't move my wrist up and down and there's no way I'd be able to grab a ball.
Doctors have ruled out plaster and strapping and instead want it to heal on its own. So for now he's left to teaching. Falcons captain Terry Dozier revels in the opportunity to show off some skills, but believes the clinics only benefit the sport.
They do have the general skills that you need to get started in this game, and especially at that age, something that I wish I'd started at that age as well.
The Kellogg's clinics will visit 130 schools across the Hunter and Central Coast over the next few months.
The Battle of Dreaming, Journey of the Soul and the Enlarged Garden are just some of the themes schools have adopted in this year's Rockestedford. More than 250 schools across New South Wales are currently putting their heart and soul into their regional heats, hoping to make it through to compete in the state final in Sydney in October. Last night it was schools from Newcastle and the Central Coast's turn to impress the adjudicators, and that they did. Performances are judged on a combination of originality, costuming, set design, choreography, teamwork and overall impact. All Saints, St Peter's Campus, Raymond Terrace and Woy Woy High School made it through their heat last night. They will now go on to compete in the Newcastle final in July.
The 14-year sentences for Nigel James Boland and Paul Mark Hart were as much as the victim's family expected, even though outside the court they said they would have liked to have seen the pair put away for life. On Tuesday, Boland, 26, and Hart, 25, were convicted of the murder of Simon McHugh in June last year. At 29, McHugh was a Newcastle businessman promoting a coupon parking system. After a few beers at a city hotel, he'd fallen into the company of Boland and Hart. McHugh was brutally bashed and left for dead in Cockle Creek off Lake Macquarie, finally drowning in shallow water. In sentencing Boland and Hart, Justice Studdert described Mr McHugh's murder as a most serious crime. He said the act of leaving Mr McHugh in the water to drown was callous in the extreme. During their trial, both Boland and Hart denied killing McHugh, but neither attempted to explain their role in his death. The pair was placed at the scene by circumstantial and scientific evidence and were overheard talking about the murder by another prisoner after they'd been arrested. Justice Studdert could find no motive for the murder and commented that neither Boland nor Hart had exhibited contrition. Both were sentenced to 18 years jail, but will be eligible for parole after serving 14 years. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
The Department of Social Security pays out $30 billion every year to its 5 million clients. Today, the minister responsible for the department, Peter Baldwin, opened 2 new offices in the region, the first at the entrance and this office in Newcastle City. Mr Baldwin says the offices are built in line with the department's new commitment to customer service.
One of the features of the new design is to try and respect the client's need for privacy. And people come to sit-down stations close to where the staff will be dealing with them actually works.
The Newcastle office will service 14,000 pensioners, 4,500 unemployed and 5,000 families on allowances. The entrance even more. Mr Baldwin admits the recession has increased the workload.
It's made it more important to ensure that we service our clients as effectively as we can. And there has been obviously some expansion to cope with the larger numbers of unemployed.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Basic philosophy for the design of new technology than that. Use the best that's available and
This year the Falcons have displayed a good following, but this week they're calling on every basketball fan to come out of the woodwork. It's an unusual request, but it's going to be one of their toughest games so far. Perth are second on the ladder. The only thing keeping them out of top spot is percentages. The Falcons are sitting at 4th, but a win this week could leapfrog them towards the lead. The Falcons have been the only team to silence the Wildcats' home crowd, so Perth aren't used to having a highly vocal crowd against them.
I guess when you get a 17-point lead, you keep them quiet, kind of, so they're not as vocal as they would like to be if Perth was up by 2 points or something like that. So that's what we, to our advantage, we got to get up by 17 and make sure the crowd gets on them.
One player pushing the point home will be Paul Kuiper. The big man has really hit form and is playing almost unchallenged under the basket.
The pain in my knees has gone down a little bit and also built up a bit of the strength. And I'm getting a lot more court time, which has seemed to pay off for me and the team.
Tomorrow night's game gets underway at 8 o'clock at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre.
Orb Walters was looking to the skies at his Coffs Harbour home today, waiting for his 19 pigeons to come home to roost. Early this morning, about 160 kilometres up the coast at Ballina, 1,000 birds were released for the Coffs Harbour Pigeon Club race. Two hours and 40 minutes later, they were homing into Coffs. About 20 pigeon owners entered the competition. The race rubber is removed from the bird's leg, put into the clock, marking the time for the race. Orb loves the sport, working each day with his birds.
Just the attraction of the beautiful birds and see them come home from the race and coming out of the sky, and it's just fantastic, I think.
The winner of today's race won't be known till later tonight. Judges working out handicaps for the course. This is what Amber Scott is best at, an all-round swimming talent who stands out in the 100-metre butterfly and freestyle events. On July the 4th, she will fly to Germany, then Los Angeles, to compete in international swimming events. The events will offer her a chance to show off her talent and provide her with vital top-class competition experience. And the grand plan is for Amber to take this experience into the next Olympics. Last night in Coffs Harbour, the beginnings of her dream were put in action. A fundraising dinner to provide money for her to travel overseas and pay for future training costs with legendary swim coach Stan Tilley. 86 people attended the dinner and $1,300 was raised for young Amber. And while Amber enjoyed the night and a rare chance to socialise, today she was back in the pool doing what she does best. The 39 cadets from TS Vendetta were on their best performance today to welcome the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Ian McDougall. The Vice Admiral inspected the newly completed cadet building, which cost $90,000 to build. $75,000 was raised by the local community, while the cadets raised the remaining $15,000. The Vice Admiral then presented the unit with the HMAS Yarra Shield for being the most efficient in the state.
The fact that Coffs, this unit, TS Vendetta in Coffs Harbour, has won the award for being the best in New South Wales and the ACT is a very significant feather in the cadets' cap, but also the local community, because these units don't run well unless they have good community support.
A grand parade of cars, fire engines and motorbikes from the past and present kicked off today's festivities at the showground. Every type of motor transport imaginable was on display, from helicopters to cars, trains to miniature semi-trailers. It was a smorgasbord of chromed, painted and polished metal as the proud owners showed off their vehicles. Major car dealers from Sydney made the trek north to give the public an insight into what's new on the road, while local car clubs displayed some grand restoration jobs. Old petrol Bowsers and motorbikes provided a trip down memory lane, while the emergency services showed the public how their vehicles work. Meanwhile, at the back of the motor show, a group of car buffs diligently continued to work on their project. Hopefully they'll have it ready in time for next year's show.
There, please.
Right, though.
Oh man, it burns me.
The Falcons couldn't convert their shots right from the start and it cost them dearly. Perth, on the other hand, made every shot a winner. The Falcons tightened up their defence and forced a few errors in the second half, but it just wasn't enough. The Jason Joins fan club was ecstatic when the big man was brought on to try and save the team in the last 3 minutes. With 60 seconds to go, he went to the shot line and bagged his best points for the season. It's expected Coach Wiseman will spend plenty of time reinforcing the value of rebounding during training this week.
Che anche altri ce l'hanno e per quello è stato interessante quello. Nel Gold Coast 你去过吗？我去过了，去过好多次。
Est-ce qu'ils veulent apprendre? Ils veulent partir aussi en Nouvelle-Calédonie?
And we've got 32 people from 6 states in 9 languages. So.
Between them, they represent a pioneering front into the relatively new area of language immersion, a bilingual way of teaching class.
For example, if they came into secondary, they might do their maths, their science, their history and geography, PE, music, art, all in French or German or Italian.
In Newcastle, for the first official meeting of the Australian Association of Language Immersion Teachers, it's hoped the network can encourage New South Wales schools to follow the lead of other states.
These students come in, they're almost learning the language subliminally. What they are doing is they're learning their maths, they're learning their history. While they're concentrating on that, they're taking in the language at the same time.
Meanwhile, around 400 senior students from throughout the Hunter are making the most of the school holiday break, brushing up on various HSC subjects. Confused? Well, for the next 2 weeks, it's hoped the study days at Newcastle University will help reveal this solution and others.
It's the first time it's been coordinated like this. They cover difficult areas of the syllabus. It's generally, it will certainly, we hope, make them better able to cope with the exam.
The Ambulance Service's Northern Division stretches from Newcastle to the Queensland border. Its 520 officers tend to almost 10,000 cases a month, clocking up more than 350,000 kilometres in the process. Yet the board decisions that affect the service are mostly made in Sydney. But today, Sydney came to the north with the inaugural State Board meeting in Newcastle.
A lot of people have said that it was important for the board to be seen in the general community, meeting local members, meeting mayors and aldermen, and the everyday citizen as well, and including ambulance officers.
And it was this kind of mixed group that was invited to a board luncheon at the Prince of Wales Hotel. Emergency service representatives stood alongside politicians and community leaders. The Northern Division Superintendent, Reg Coburn, says the board's visit gave him a chance to address the members on a number of issues, including the question of staffing levels. The Raymond Terrace and Doyleson stations have been identified as each needing 4 more officers.
I was able to talk this morning on that issue, and although we still need to put more information up, we're hopeful that we'll be able to achieve something at Raymond Terrace during the next financial year.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
The oil tanks in Wickham and Carrington have become landmarks, the base for the major oil companies in Newcastle. But under a feasibility study, the tanks could be moved, creating space for the redevelopment of the inner city in the Honeysuckle project.
The big benefit of ultimately relocating those facilities is, upgrading the environment of inner Newcastle and also providing further opportunities for residential development.
$15,000 from the Better Cities funding is being spent to see if it's worth clearing the 22-hectare site. The oil companies themselves are taking a low-key approach, saying they're not too concerned about the proposal, emphasising it's just a feasibility study. But a spokesman did say any movement of the petroleum facilities would have to be a workable alternative. The government says the public purse would not have to pay for any relocation.
At the end of the day, the cost of relocation are costs to be borne by the private sector, the companies themselves.
Doug Snedden from the Planning Department says the companies may see benefits themselves in moving, updating their plants, maybe even pooling their resources into one giant facility instead of 6 separate entities. Local residents are ecstatic that the tanks could be moved, but a member of the Throsby Creek Landcare Group says any move would have to be followed by a decontamination program. It's estimated that could cost millions. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
An under-21 youth disco is the brainchild of Jason Buckingham and Martin Salvador. Following negotiations with police, their idea is set to become a reality this Saturday afternoon between 2 and 9 o'clock. The venue is Pump Nightclub in Newcastle's inner city.
I wanted to have a place where kids could go and eat, have a good time, dance, listen to music, watch the amazing light show that they've got there, and just really feel comfortable in a good environment.
It's the first time we've seen a really good, very well organised group get together that want to do something which is genuinely for the youth without it being just a money-making venture.
Constable Watts says there'll be supervision, with local beat police visiting the disco. Jason currently runs an agency which nurtures the talents of Newcastle youth in the areas of music, breakdancing and graffiti art. But he's concerned there's not enough inexpensive entertainment available for young people.
If you've got nowhere to go, and you're a large group, you get bored, you might get a bit angry, you see someone you don't like, trouble starts. It's just, we want to keep a happy place,
If successful, Constable Watts believes the discos could spread to other areas. This was the scene at 46 Commonwealth branches across northern New South Wales. Most people knew of the industrial action and had made alternate arrangements for their banking. However, there were those caught unawares.
Did you desperately need to use the bank today?
I still do.
Around 70 of the bank's 608 Hunter staff turned up for work, a similar number on the north coast. Many people were content to use automatic teller machines, but there were some branches opened. In the Hunter, the branch on the corner of Hunter and Scott Streets was doing business, so too the University branch. On the central coast, East Gosford, Toukley, Woy Woy and Wyoming branches were opened, while in the north coast region, Taree, Walker, Nambucca, Yamba, Iluka, South Tweed, Kyogle and Glen Innes were operating. The bank hopes those branches will be open tomorrow, but that will depend on how many staff turn up for work. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Everett Stevens will have the mobile phone courtside tomorrow night, just in case his wife goes into labour. Wife Kay is due to have the baby tomorrow, and it's hoped nothing drastic will happen while her goal-shooting husband is away. But it's believed team sponsor Reebok already has a miniature tracksuit and basketball shoes on standby. If the Falcons do get back into scoring mode, there's a few milestones up for grabs. Paul Kuiper needs 26 points to record 2,000 for his career.
I don't really think about it that much, you know, it's just one of those things that happen. I think the club will be fairly excited, but more excited if we beat Brisbane.
And Sean Dennis requires just 16 to notch up his 1,000.
On a personal basis, it would be fantastic to get, you know, it's one of the little goals I set before the start of the year was to hopefully rack up my 1,000 points and as well as achieve my 150 games, which I'm not too far off as well.
The Falcons have been working hard this week to try and eliminate some basic faults in their play that came to haunt them last week against Perth. Everyone expected the home team in the white and black shirts to tread softly, but they showed they were anything but overawed. The New South Wales boys tackled hard all night and made significant inroads in the opposition's defence. The persistence paid off with a goal to David Lowe. The Macedonians responded with shot after shot at goal, but the keeper repelled every attack. The fog rolled in and at times made the ball hard to find. Out of the mist, a Varda forward milked a penalty and gave the visitors the equaliser. Shortly after half-time, Varda went to a 2-goal lead, the locals not equalling the score until the last minutes.
The Bulga State Forest just outside of Wingham has been the cause of much mixed and ill feelings around the mid-north coast. A determined group of environmentalists have been arrested en masse on almost a regular basis. Their noisy and spirited protests have at times broken the law, trespassing onto the logging area and stopping work. Today, the supporters of logging got together in Wingham.
You take my own business for argument's sake, you see. I'm in the engineering business. I repair equipment for earth moving and timber getting alike. And where I had 10 people working once, I have 2 now, and sometimes we don't really have enough to do. So we do have to protect our own industry.
Rally organisers allowed an anti-logging protester to speak to the people, but the reception was not warmly welcomed. Taree Mayor Ralph Metcalf showed his support for the loggers along with about 7 other speakers.
We're not going to put up any further with the nonsense that has been going on.
The organisers hope today's demonstration will put an end to the anti-logging protests, as they believe the environmentalists are just causing trouble and their rallies are turning people away from the town.
Several of Australia's top-ranked players and a competitor from Switzerland are sweating it out for $3,000 in prize money and trophies. The Classic is open to players of all abilities from Open to E-grade. The tournament is rapidly gaining in popularity. The number of entries is significantly up on last year, and the crowd support has started to grow from just the usual family cheer squads. Metropolitan organisers believed the competition would not take off because it was too far out of Sydney. However, the Kempsey Squash Committee is proving them wrong. Tomorrow's finals get underway at 8 o'clock in the morning at the Kempsey Squash and Recreation Centre. Singleton's big men lay the groundwork for the backs, driving forward for good field position. The strength of the pack and the cunning of Steve Merrick got the joint competition leaders over the line. Uni wanted to keep the game out of their half and made sure the referee knew it. However, both sides finished up on equal terms. At Townsend Oval, Wanderers broke a 6-all half-time deadlock with a sideline run from Jeremy Sullivan. Where the pack was awesome, pushing the Blues backwards at every opportunity. The clash of the forwards in the semis promises to be a battle of strength.